Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. It's Christmas time! And because it's Christmas time, wait. What the hell?
Yes, what the hell indeed!
Shouldn't you be sleeping?
Shouldn't you have done something back in October?
Look, the schedule slips this year have been bad. It sucks. I wanted to do the Halloween episodes, but...
And that's why you're going to do them now!
Dude, it's December! You put out Christmas stuff in December!
Ah, yes, this Charismas thing. I've only just learned about it.
Recently? Dude, haven't you looked at Christian-adjacent stuff before? The devil, Antichrist, God, all that stuff?
Yeah, of course.
And you didn't know what Christmas was.
I learned about the important ones. Halloween, Day of the Dead, Arbor Day, the big ones.
Naturally.
And yet this Christmas keeps infecting things, forcing you to decorate and buy gifts and sing carols all the way back in July.
I mean, you don't have to buy any of it.
Oh, but then there is less and less space for Halloween. This Christmas has declared war on the season of spooks, and it's time that we fought back. It's time for a war on Christmas.
My guess is that you have been watching a surprising amount of Fox News for yourself. But look, we're not doing this.
Funny guy, thinking that I'm giving you a choice here.
You want to kill me, man? Just do it already. Saves me from having to look at your pasty ass every year. By the way, looked like your makeup was melting this year.
It's not makeup, but I have a better idea than killing you.
Oh, really?
Yes. Sticking around.
What?
I don't need to sleep during the off-seasons. I remind you that I've done Midsummer's Nightmares before.
Might be good for revenue for you to do that again, honestly.
Indeed! So imagine me bothering you. Every day, every minute, every second. Through 2025, through 2026, through 2027, 2028, 2029, and so on and so forth.
Point taken. But this ain't over. If you're gonna be around here, I'm gonna teach you a thing or two about Christmas. Maybe even get you to like it.
Is there stabbing involved in the holiday?
Not traditionally.
Then you have lost me already. Go and do your silly little review.
Well, as it happens, Patreon-sponsored review time again. One of those rare occasions where a patron wants me to cover a Christmas comic. And by coincidence, it works within the parameters that Art the Clown over there specified.
Love that guy's work!
Santa vs. Dracula comes to us from Ed Power and Melissa DeJesus, whom we've talked about way back in 2015 in another Patreon-sponsored review, the comic strip My Cage. Originally starting life as a webcomic, Santa vs. Dracula apparently went through a few iterations, including an attempt at getting an animated adaptation over a few years until 2012, when the creators were able to Kickstarter the book and release it in full. The comic is called Santa vs. Dracula. I don't think we need much more of an introduction to its concept. Let's dig in and see how it goes.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where Yuletide candles burn. Linkara's gonna give you all a present you've not earned. Not Mensch, you're not the brightest. Frank Miller, you're off the nice list. If you're a comic writer who misuses a license, your gift will be returned. Digging through the shelves for the kind of comic books that would turn Santa's elves into common crooks. He reads them and he weeps while down the chimney creeps. Bill Jammers with a Marvel trade to watch him when he sleeps. Linkara, he built a snowman, now it has a hole. Linkara, 8 maids, a milking and a young blood troll. Linkara, only one Dickens homage away from going chestnuts. Linkara,
cover is shockingly minimalistic given the title, and that's not necessarily bad, but I think it might be a bit too little for this. We just have a Santa hat with some snow on it and nearby a little bit of blood. I thought maybe those holes right below the title might actually be, like, eye holes, and this might be an artsy face of some kind, like the hat and the blood are supposed to help shape it into a vampire mouth or something, but no. If it's there, I am not seeing it. Anyway, we open at the North Pole 3 days before Christmas. On top of the world, one man monitors us all.
I call him Gambler.
He knows if you are sleeping, if you are awake. I mean, we can all do that these days thanks to social media posting. If you are good or bad. He is the ultimate judge of all morality. All complex ethical issues must pass through him to determine their value. We get a 2-page spread revealing Santa Claus indeed watching over, like, 24 children on a bunch of monitors, which feels counterproductive considering how many kids there are on Earth. The Kickstarter page actually features the overall art and has a placeholder image in place of the kids on screen. At first I thought this meant that there was a reward for getting your kid's picture in the book like this, but while there is a reward tier for a cameo in the book, it suggests that it's as a background character. So why have real images of kids here then? Anyway, Santa is told by Gloria, an angel who works with him, that the child monitoring is fully automated, so he doesn't need to be here. And you know I don't trust technology, ho ho ho. Yeah, it's all full of data mining that violates your privacy. Thank God we've got you, Santa, monitoring us all and observing our private personal activities. No, rather, he points out that automated messages about this stuff leaves out the actual personal details of kids, like how they've grown, or, say, how happy some orphans are being adopted. Mrs. Claus, aka Catherine, walks in with a snack for him, but then all the electricity in the room goes out. We need the Silent Nights, Gloria. Get me Nick Frosty. Sorry, Santa, but he signed on to yet another project with Simon Pegg. He'll be busy for months. No, Nick Frosty is actually a Nick Fury parody, but an elf. Santa wants a reconnaissance crew at the transmission tower before he sends any elves to repair it. I've been your head of security for centuries, old man. You've never sent my Silent Nights out on something this mundane before. Yeah, but we've got to justify your operating expenses this quarter or the board is going to start cutting the budget. Something got you spooked? Let's just say you don't do what I do for as long as I have without knowing when something is naughty. Well, except for that one time when I didn't know that the eggnog had been spiked and I ended up making out with Blitzen. The Silent Nights head out, and true to their name, they are loud and yelling on their snowmobile. Santa gets a call on his cell phone, and he's informed that the toy soldiers under his employ have found something while on patrol. He heads out to where it is, and it's the Easter Bunny, who's dying. Easter Bunny, is that you? Who did this to you?
It was the ice cream bunny. He wants to take my job. I can still hear his laughing.
Apparently the Tooth Fairy has also been taken down, and he warns Santa that monsters did this. And they're coming for him. And unfortunately, the Easter Bunny isn't the only one to die tonight. The Silent Nights are suddenly hurled back along with their snowmobile, crashing near the group and exploding. Everyone who is there, save for Santa and Gloria, are dead from the blast, which admittedly the art did not really depict much of an explosion, just a crash, but you still get the idea. He orders Gloria to help their souls cross over. I'll send an ambulance sled for the bodies. It'll be out of network, so at least we'll get some cash from their estates over it. I've got to get back to the workshop. I'll take the bunny's body with me. Screw the rest, though. I never really liked any of them. Gloria starts praying, but it seems Nick Frosty is alive, also talking about monsters before collapsing. But then Gloria takes out a flaming sword, and we cut away to just outside the workshop, where a living snowman named Wintry comes to talk to Catherine. She's a little sarcastic to him, which he catches, and she apologizes for, since she's relatively new to the North Pole. One of the reindeer, Rumspringer, comes out, drunk on peppermint schnapps, and he can talk.
You aren't gonna lecture me, are you? The first Mrs. Claus lectured me too. I'm still here. Get the hint?
Did you murder her for lecturing you about your alcoholism? He's drinking because he's the basis for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and evidently Johnny Marks ripped him off for the original Rudolph song and changed just enough so he didn't need to pay royalties. Well, then maybe he should have tried suing Robert L. May, who actually originated Rudolph, for a children's book in 1939, long before the song. Apparently the same thing happened to Wintry. Frosty the Snowman was based on him. However, before they can continue the conversation, Santa comes running in carrying the dead Easter Bunny and ordering everyone to get inside the workshop. He gets a call on his cell phone from an unknown caller. Phone number all zeros. Trick or treat. Damn it, Sadako, I told you you're getting a new TV for Christmas. Stop calling. No, it's Dracula, whom Santa recognizes. Santa demands to know what this is all about, and Dracula explains. You know, that little thing where I can't enter a house without being invited? Been bad for business for me for years. I don't know, man. Considering in a minute we're gonna see that you own your own yacht, I can't imagine it's hurting you that badly. Then suddenly it hit me. You know who has the power to enter any home he wants at any time? My old friend Saint Nick. Isn't that weird? Under both our noses all this time, and yet it took centuries to realize it. Turns out I'm kind of an idiot. Which explains the outfit I'm wearing, I guess. Turns out another vampire weakness is shirt buttons. Long story short, I'm here for your job. You know the rule. No items, fox only, final destination. To be the Claus, you have to kill the Claus. Did Santa murder someone for this job? Dracula says that he fully plans on doing just that, admitting he killed the Easter Bunny to get Santa's phone number. He's revealing his plan because he's giving Santa one chance to surrender peacefully and die quickly. He's bringing along an army of monsters to drag Santa out of the workshop since, you know, he just admitted he can't enter it uninvited. Okay then, but if anyone else I love gets hurt, when I find you, I'm gonna stuff coal someplace a lot more uncomfortable than your stocking.
I'm here to eat candy canes and kick ass, and I'm all out of candy canes.
Find me, but Nicholas, I'm already here. I mean, admittedly, I'm actually kind of lost right now. The Arctic is a lot bigger than I thought it would be, and I had some trouble with the pack ice a bit ago, but that cleared up. Thanks, Satan, for climate change. This brings us to Chapter 2, Prepare for War. Okay, Santa, I know this may be in violation of the Geneva Convention, but I suggest we mix the garlic powder with holy water to use as a chemical weapon. Santa hangs up on Dracula, who meets with his hunchbacked assistant Fritz. Dracula expresses some regret that his vampire army is mostly made up of a few hundred whiny teenage artists, one of whom overhears that and is dismayed. Oh, Debbie, I didn't mean you and your friends. I was talking about another army of vampires. They live in Canada, you don't know them. He's clearly using his hypnotism on her, but only so much. Demona. Excuse me? I changed me name to Demona Darkblood. I thought it fit better with, you know, our motif. Motif. Right. Dude, your shirt has a big upturned collar on it. You don't get to be judgy of other people's aesthetic choices. He sends her off, then grumbles to Fritz. When I get my hands on the woman who created Twilight. Okay, dude, I appreciate a good grumble about Twilight even now. In 10 years, I might even be able to make Twilight jokes again, and they'll be considered retro instead of dated. And I admit, I've never actually read the books myself, but I am 99% certain Bella nor anyone else in the books changed their names like that. Sounds more like a My Immortal thing, frankly. Dracula visits some more of his recruits, who are apparently mostly boozing it up. This includes the Frankenstein monster, a witch, the Invisible Man, a werewolf, and Moarte himself.
Oh, please, I have a better fashion sense than him. For one thing, that shade of green is hideous. Also, red and green together, it's like he's trying to embrace Chrism ass.
Piss off, Sting! Dracula turns off the TV as they try to watch How the Grinch Stole Christmas, declaring that they have to prepare for a fight against Santa. The witch interrupts, though, asking if he cackled evilly on the call, and if Santa knew that he got the idea of said cackle from the movie The Lost Boys. In return, Dracula grabs a can of booze, shakes it up, and sprays it at the witch and declares that Santa will never learn that fact. And this causes the witch to start melting. Okay, if this story is following Wizard of Oz rules for witches, maybe she was not the best person to bring on this trip to the Arctic. No one must know Count Dracula has a Netflix account. It's less that no one must know he has one, but that Dracula does password sharing for everyone here. With the witch dead, Dracula makes it clear what'll happen to anyone else who might oppose him, and then orders the others to get ready. We've got joy to kill. We're going to Twitter! Fritz later asks if killing the witch was necessary since they could have really used her help, and it especially seemed a bit over the top to kill her like that. No, never underestimate the power of drama. It's all that separates us from the zombies. Yeah, zombies notoriously hate theater. The more you know. Nearby, the yacht is being spied on by Jack Frost, but more importantly, we cut back to Santa's workshop, where Catherine is upset that Jack was sent on recon.
No, Kate. Jack Frost may be like a son to us, but he's about 100 years older than you, making this relationship kind of weird, I admit.
Fortunately, Jack comes back without any issue and reports what he saw, that it's a party yacht and not exactly swarming with troops. That being said, since vampires can shapeshift into bats or rats and the boat could just be stuffed full of hundreds of coffins, they don't have any idea how many actual troops he has at his command. Still, they do anticipate the monster squad he has on hand that we saw. Catherine wants to know how they know so much about Dracula's regular entourage.
That's all in the past, doll. Dracula and I dated in college. Worst relationship I ever had.
He orders Papa Elf and Dasher, who is apparently anthropomorphic in this, I guess, to begin readying their troops for war. Papa Elf, who is apparently some kind of elder of the elves, an elfder, if you will, gives a big mobilizing speech for the elves, though we also see some chatter among them.
I hear the Mayans predicted this.
Oh, 2012 Mayan apocalypse predictions. Are we sure that it didn't actually come true and it's just taken a while for it to settle in? But yeah, the speech. It's done over a montage as Papa Elf describes how the elves used to be warlike and almost destroyed themselves before Santa came along, brought the remaining elves to the North Pole, and showed them warmth and kindness, teaching them to make toys instead of weapons. But now they have to return to their roots to defend their home. Some vampires begin their approach on the elves, but they're ready.
Let's get Tolkien on their asses!
The elves proceed to spend 10 pages describing trees to the vampires. But yeah, the battle begins. Santa's main entourage, him, Catherine, Gloria, Jack, Wintry, and Rumspringer, plans to go and take on Dracula directly at his boat. Santa knows he's a coward who won't come in during the main action. Take out Dracula, and that'll destroy the other vampires, though admittedly Santa says that he's getting this plan from The Lost Boys, which he had also rented from Netflix. I joked about it, but given they were both into it, I'm taking bets that that was Santa and Dracula's favorite movie to watch together when they were a couple. The vampires cut the power, and Santa can already sense their naughtiness inside the workshop. The security systems are still active enough for Gloria to detect 4 points of entry into the workshop.
Okay, new plan. We split up.
Sounds like a really crappy plan, but okay.
His logic is that at least one of them needs to get to Dracula so the others can run interference. I would argue strength in numbers gives you a better chance of reaching him, but whatever. Wintry says that this might be the last time they're all together, giving us a little emotional moment before Gloria informs Jack that one of the intruders is in his room.
They better not touch my stuff!
Dude, I hate to break it to you, but nobody cares about touching your Rise of the Guardians merch. The group splits up, with Santa and Gloria intent on going straight to Dracula. However, he takes a moment to talk to Catherine and remind her that while they're functionally immortal, they can still be killed with enough damage to their bodies. He gives exposition about what happened to the former Mrs. Claus, that she had an immortal life crisis and ran off with the boogeyman before he met Catherine on a VH1 dating show he was convinced to do.
I'm sorry. I'm always so busy, but I love you, and I don't want to lose you.
If things get dicey, go to the communications room and contact Mars. Droppo will bring the entire Martian fleet to our aid. Nearby, the abominable snowman is watching the carnage down at the workshop. The art put an animal skull on their head for some reason, best guess to evoke the native folklore creature whom I don't say the name of, because otherwise I don't know why the skull is there. Anyway, it's approached by a werewolf named Mike. Mike explains about the battle.
There's a war going on down there. A war between the symbols of Christmas and monsters. That's why I'm here. We can't figure out where you stand.
My favorite part of the nativity was the abominable snowman. Mike has been sent to figure out which side of this contest he stands on and explains why he joined Dracula.
Vampires get all the chicks. Vampires are the cool kids at the dance. And Dracula, my boss, he's the king of this monsters ball.
Look, man, I know given the time period and the Twilight references that things are rough for werewolves right now, but it'll turn around. Give it a few more years and there's a whole generation of people who prefer more bestial monsters and vampires ready to embrace you. I mean, with the exception of the 9-foot-tall vampire lady, but that was a given. But yeah, he's telling the abominable snowman that they need to make a choice about whose side they're on to end the chapter. Chapter 3 brings us our first true confrontation. Wintry the Snowman versus Frankenstein's monster. Wintry finds Frankenstein's monster in the library reading Deepak Chopra.
You're a lot more literate than I thought. Yes, I really should sue Universal Studios. But they say they'll apologize to me by making me a big part of that dark universe thing they're developing. I think that'll go well.
The monster is, of course, there to kill Wintry, who points out that magical creatures don't die easily. They fight, Wintry asking why the monster is even doing this. While he admits that he's mostly there as hired muscle, he recalls how he realized he was the monster everyone said he was after he killed a child who taunted him. When he went up to the Arctic to die, as in the novel, he heard the elves singing, and that drove him wild. The one place on Earth he thought he could find solitude, and it was an oasis dedicated to rewarding children for being good.
Do you know what that's like? Do you?
I mean, what I'm taking away from this is that kid was gonna get coal for mocking you, dude. Wintry tries and fails to convince the monster to be good, instead trying to scare him off with fire, but the monster explains that Dracula's hypnosis served as hypnotherapy for his phobias, and he no longer fears it, lighting his arm on fire and beating him into a puddle. However, as Wintry said, magical creatures don't die so easily, so he reforms as water and realizes that wheezing the monster had been doing means that he still has to breathe, so he uses his scarf to choke him, then drown him in his watery form, ending the chapter, though a bit ambiguously as he doesn't reform afterwards, and Wintry's magic hat that gives him life floats over to the monster's head. Frankie the Snowman was made of different bodies from the morgue. Chapter 4, Mrs. Claus versus the Hunchback, is very short. Catherine comes into a bell tower, already aware that she's going to be fighting Fritz. As such, she comes in with a plate of cookies and announces that she sympathizes. He's supposed to be some kind of iconic figure himself, the hunchbacked assistant to every mad scientist ever.
Not me, though. I want people for the love of the work, not for things like money.
You said you would pay him in NFTs!
And the fact that he seriously considered it showed why it was good I didn't hire him.
Anyway, she sets out the cookies and says that she understands what it's like to be unappreciated and to be judged for your looks instead of who you are. He takes the cookies and eats them, seeming to suggest that they don't have to fight, but then he realizes the cookies are drugged with sleeping powder. She knocks him down to the bottom of the bell tower. You think you can orchestrate an attack on my friends, and I'm gonna take pity on you because you're pathetic? I mean, fair enough, but you probably could have gotten him to switch sides and then give you intelligence info is all. To add insult to injury, she uses the cookie plate like some kind of razor-sharp boomerang to slice the bell tower off its rope and fall right on him. He survives, but still, ouch. Next chapter, Rumspringer the reindeer versus Mr. Hyde. Yeah, it turns out the ghoul-looking guy was Mr. Hyde, and he's already waiting for Rumspringer. It's one of the longer chapters and one of the more serious ones. The two soon fight, and we learn that the song is not what motivates Rumspringer's drinking. It's the crappy life he's led. He was, of course, born with the red nose, and Santa encouraged his dad by saying that even if his nose never turns dark, he's still a good deer and there's nothing wrong with him. He was, of course, mocked and teased for looking different, to the point where once when two bullies were harassing him, his nose glowed so intensely that it was almost like a flashbang in front of them. Although he could control his glowing nose, rumors and superstition and fear drove people away from him, even his own parents. He hoped that Santa would come visit and reassure him, but he never did, except for the foggy Christmas Eve when he needed his glowing nose. Hyde wants him to surrender to his inner darkness and join them, but Rumspringer rejects that, because while this may be the darkest of the stories, it also is about light. Rumspringer may be down because of how crappy his life was, but he still drives the sled because he's never going to let any child be uncertain whether or not they're good like he was. He then activates his nose at point-blank range and at full intensity, and while it reverts Hyde to Jekyll and takes him down, it seems to burn him out too. Like I said, it's a very dark and tragic story in the middle of all this. Sure, the comic hasn't been exactly laugh-out-loud hilarious, but it seemed to be taking standard dark humor with the situation. Not quite full-on depressing like that was, even if it shows how good Rumspringer is. Anyway, Chapter 6.
This is the final battle.
Santa takes Gloria to the banned toys vault to arm himself with the most dangerous and deadly toys available. Also, a black headband was in there too, I guess.
Let's rock! Jingle bell style! What a bright time, it's the right time to kick your scrawny ass.
Unfortunately, as the two try to leave, the vampire forces led by Debbie enter the main foyer, revealing that the elves have been defeated. They order Santa to surrender, but Catherine and Jack Frost soon join them. Jack took on the Invisible Man, who was naked and, Well, Jack just controlled the cold so that he died of hypothermia. It's always the downside of the Invisible Man as a member of the classic monsters. Sure, he's invisible, but he's also just a dude. And he's not exactly Batman. He rambles that the moon is afraid of him and snuck around the Arctic without any clothes on. Santa tries and fails to bring Debbie back to the nice list.
They may not deserve toys, but inside they're still frightened children. Kill them quickly and pray for their souls. Kill the frightened children!
The vampires attack. 1 for the holly, 2 for the snow, 3 to get jolly.
Now ho ho ho!
Okay, you guys clearly rehearsed that. Was Santa running battle drills for exactly this sort of situation? Points to Jack Frost for using a classic super soaker. But yeah, Catherine with knitting needles, ice shurikens, flaming sword, it's brutal against the vampires. Also, points for the narration, quoting part of God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen as the fight goes on. Good stuff. Debbie seems to survive the lawn darts shoved into her, and Santa says the plan is the same, to reach Dracula, but Dracula has already arrived on a sled pulled by wolves along with his brides. He tells Santa it's time to surrender. He's outnumbered, and his defeated forces are going to become vampires themselves in a few hours. Santa challenges Dracula to single combat to settle this, but the Lord of all Vampires is a douchebag. Who'da thunk it? See, unlike you, I have distaste for anything sweet or holy. Do you know I can actually touch religious artifacts, crosses, holy water? I can, really. Know why I don't? Disdain. Douchula. So the thought of laying hands on God's favorite party planner? It just makes my skin stop crawling, to tell you the truth. Well, then it's gonna be really hard to claim Santa's powers if you don't kill him. Okay, maybe you could, use a gun or something, but whoever said, I shall gain the power of Santa by shooting them? No, his plan is to use the abominable snowman, who indeed rejected Mike and fought him. Mike is dead, but the snowman is now a werewolf too, and under Dracula's thrall. The snowman punches Jack Frost into some rocks, breaking his back. He gives a tearful farewell to Catherine, who stabs at the snowman with her needles, but just gets shoved aside for the brides to tower over. However, before the snowman can kill Santa, Frankenstein's monster shows up and punches him back. Wintry has now possessed the monster's body and says he'll take on the creature while Santa goes for Drac. He tackles the snowman over a cliff while Santa heads over to Drac, but Gloria stops him, putting her fiery sword in front of him. Drac says that she's been their person on the inside this whole time. Okay, but she's also been slaughtering your forces, so maybe this heel turn should have happened earlier, dude. She explains that she's sick of being underappreciated after centuries of defending him. Who was it on Nightline when every other religion's defense leagues were offended your list of good children didn't seem to include non-Christian children?
Okay, but in my defense, you are literally an angel of God. This story is suggesting that Christianity is the correct religion and all.
She demands to know why she never got an ounce of praise from him.
Because it's not my job to judge angels.
And he grabs her sword and stabs her.
Also, because you installed that state-of-the-art security system that did jack diddly for this whole attack. You kind of sucked at your job, Gloria.
Odd how he was unable to detect naughtiness from her. Maybe that's why he never praised her. He knew she was actually secretly evil. In any case, he tells her to wish their boss happy birthday, and she's taken away to heaven. And with no one else in the way, it's down to the title fight.
You know, Nicholas, I always knew it would end like this. Then why did you start it?
Well, to be fair, I did say trick or treat.
Yeah, well, so did Jack Skellington, and look how well that went.
And thus our final chapter, Santa versus Dracula. Recapping fight scenes is always tough because it's basically just describing, and then he punches him, and then he kicked him, etc. Needless to say, though, I've complained about a lot more modern fight scenes in comics not being paced well. Just a few panels of exaggerated motions instead of letting the sequential art show the back and forth. But this comic delivers on a legit good fight scene. It flows well, the hits have impact and strength, there's back and forth over who's winning. In the end, though, Santa takes the North Pole sign and impales Dracula on it. His vampires, like the brides, disappear, the elves recover, those transformed revert back or lose their bite wounds. Kate goes over to Santa to congratulate him, but twist ending, Santa is now a vampire! Yeah, I don't quite know how that happened. I checked the fight over and I couldn't find a spot where Dracula bit him or grazed him with his teeth. Maybe it happened right when Santa got him with the pole, but you'd think with everyone else reverting, it would save him too. Like, best guess I could think of was that, like, how if you kill Santa, you become him. The same thing happens if you kill Dracula. But that's a weird bit of mythos, as if Dracula serves a similar purpose as Santa. Also, kind of a downer way to end the story, with evil technically winning. There are 2 epilogues, though. The first features a bunch of elves, now transformed into vampires, attacking England on Christmas Eve with a Tiny Tim-esque child proclaiming, "God help us, everyone!" And so our comic ends with the second epilogue, where one of the vampire elves is captured by the Easter Bunny.
Tell him Dracula made a mistake. He killed the Easter Bunny and didn't expect a resurrection.
The Easter Bunny is Jesus?! I feel like I should have seen this coming.
Tell him we're here to save him, to set things right. Tell him the holidays are coming.
And we see the Easter Bunny flanked by a leprechaun, a groundhog, Cupid, and a turkey armed with electric knives. Okay, that turkey is the most badass here, using the tools of its murder and consumption and making them its signature weapons. Anyway, this comic is pretty decent. Like I said, it's not exactly laugh-out-loud funny, but it delivers on its premise and is pretty amusing in some of its holiday puns. The artwork is pretty good as well, especially managing to keep backgrounds interesting even when we're in parts outside of the workshop and therefore being more of a snowy, desolate wasteland. I'd say its biggest issues are really in tone. Sure, maybe this isn't intended as a full-on comedy, but the premise is one that's lending itself to humor, and the amount of clear jokes it's telling seem to suggest it's meant to be one. But then stuff like Rumspringer's origin story and the tragic fates of so many characters we get to know and like just makes it really kind of a bummer. And sure, they sequel bait with the ending, but as far as I know, there hasn't been a sequel since then, so it just ends with poor Santa getting turned into a vampire to spread fear and misery. Sure, there's a reason dark comedy is a thing, but I don't know, it just feels like too dour an ending given everything they all went through. But it's an enjoyable read, most certainly, and it's overall fun. And a minor issue is that it contains a few typos here and there, but I'm a little more forgiving of that for an indie book than, say, a major release from the big two. Though if this ever gets a re-release or reprinting, I hope those get corrected.
And so you see, as it should be, the Halloween creatures win through.
Oh, bite me.
Maybe I will when you're sleeping.
Yeah, but in the meantime, we'll keep the holiday train running. Next time, it's another Christmas Quickie!
Wrong! Halloween won this battle, so Halloween will advance to the next stage. Next time, my children, it's the Evil Dead.
One for the holly, 2 for the snow, 3 to get jolly.
Hello my friends, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon, buy merch from the store NV link in the description, or check out the t-shirts available from Teespring. Thanks for watching.